let's move into birthright citizenship. So the Supreme Court gives Trump the okay to ban birthright citizenship in some parts of the country. For those of you who don't know, birthright citizenship is when both parents are from another country and they are undocumented. They have a child in America, making that child a legal citizen of the United States. Not so yeah, it makes the child a citizen of the United States, not where the child, not where the parents is from. So we do have what he's doing is very unconstitutional because the 14th Amendment says all people born in the United States, as in this country, we are all you. I'm messing up, y'all. As in this country, we are all living in. We are legal U.S. citizens. They are legal U.S. citizens. After Trump passes this executive order, federal courts around the country ruled it was unconstitutional. The Supreme Court, in a decision on Friday, gave the green light to end birthright in some parts of the country in a 6-3 decision. All the liberal justices were against it, and the 6 right-wing justices were for it, which now means that the federal courts that ruled that is unconstitutional do not have the jurisdiction or authority to institute a nationwide ban and can only institute regional bans, which means for their state that the federal lawsuit was filed in. So, to be clear, the Supreme Court did not rule that birthright citizenship was or was not constitutional. They did not rule on that. That would not come until October when they will rule on that. They ruled that the lower courts, federal courts, uh, do not have the jurisdiction to implement a nationwide ban on the matter. The Supreme Court will have to rule on this legal matter in some parts of the country, basically. So, and then another thing that came up that somebody brought to my attention. So they were saying that Melania Trump was came to America on an Epstein or Einstein Epstein, I can't remember, type of visa, which is for like scholars or extraordinary people, whatever you want to call it. So she came over on one of those visas. She had their son. What is the younger? She had her son 2 days before she got this visa in the United States. So then now that would make her son a product of birthright citizenship. Now, do you think we should kick her youngest son out the country because he's not a legal U.S. citizen technically under this?
under this law.
Yeah,
So what the law is basically saying that they could end it, but then it's who for the deport.
true. And so the Supreme Court more like because it is in the constitutional, like in the Constitution, the 14th Amendment, that anybody but is born in the U.S. is a legal U.S. citizen. There's no way around it. In October, they like I said, they can enforce it. Like just like no, you can't do that, Trump. Getting rid of birthright citizenship. But what people don't fail to realize is that yes, the United States is one country, but we have 50 states and then other territories within the United States. And each of these states and territories act like act like their own separate country within the country. So by them saying like all the red states can be like, yeah, we're going to get rid of birthright citizenship, and all the blue states can be like, yeah, we're going to keep birthright citizenship. And what happened?
Everybody that want it is gonna go to the ones that support it.
That too. But what happened the last time something like this happened? Does anybody remember what happened the last time that the red
The
states?
Civil War.
Exactly. So some people are saying that the United States is heading into a civil war over this whole birthright citizenship. And I really sat down and thought about it, and then they said like, "Oh, this is the same thing that happened when it came to slavery back in the 1800s when it came to the red states wanted slavery, the blue states didn't want slavery, and then you had then the Civil War happened and all these other kind of things, and that's what really good. That's what I started looking. I really thought about it like that's what we're going into. That's what it's leading to. Like we're going to have a civil war again in the United States. It's going to be the North versus the South.
I was
Blue.
gonna say, I was gonna say, well, I feel like we're safe up here.
Hmm.
But if it ever happened, So then my question is, I wonder to what extent would the reach has on this, because like I was telling you, like we're technically birthright citizens, right? I know my
European American, everybody that's of a European descent or
yeah,
African American descent or from any other country, unless you are a Mexican or a Native American, birthright citizenship is us.
yeah.
Those like birthright citizen, only people who are technically legally here in the United States is Mexicans and Mexicans and Native Americans. For those of you who don't know your history, part of most of the southern part of the United States was owned by Mexico until the Louisiana Purchase.
I
In case
mean,
you didn't know that.
yeah, it's a lot of I feel like it's a lot of similarities in the cultures too, right? Because they were on the same continent.
Mhm.
So um so that's my question. Like, how far does that go back? Like, is it just gonna be that, like, take the whole Melania Trump situation? Like, she wasn't a citizen yet, right? She just had a visa and she
Mhm.
had her son. So he would be a US citizen and she was not. So like, are they gonna say if your parent wasn't a US citizen and you were born in the United States, you're not a citizen?
Pretty much. So basically, they say any undocumented immigrants that came to the United States and they had a child, that child will no longer be considered a U.S. citizen, even though the child was born here in the U.S. And then, for those of you who don't know, so say like you on a cruise and you out in international waters and you pregnant and you have a baby, whatever the closest like territory or country that the ship is closest to, and you had when you have your baby is part of that country. They're considered a citizen of that country. Just for those of you who don't know.
That would be a wild story to tell somebody, wouldn't it?
It would.
That would be a wild story.
Like, yeah, I had you in the middle of the ocean, so they said the closest country we was to was Australia. So boom, that's where you from. But yeah, so like I said, like so technically, they could get rid of her youngest son, uh what was we talking about? Oh, birthright citizenship. They could get rid of his citizenship, and then people gonna try to argue, well, Trump is his dad and he's a legal US citizen, but y'all failed to forget that Trump dad was a immigrant also. Just
Yep,
saying.
sure was. Yep.
So even if Trump dad was a legal citizen, but we go back before that and before that, before that, and before that. So say like they go back to, let's go back to 1776. Anybody born after 1776 and their parents was not a legal US citizen, guess what?
Not y'all finna deport generations of people. That's why I say, who finna deport all these people? What are we talking about? What are we
That's
really
exactly
talking
what it's
about?
like. Are we really gonna deport generations of people? Like, come on, because it's almost like, so say like two immigrants come and they have a baby here and they end up staying in the U.S. Whatever, they baby grow up in the U.S. and then that baby have a baby and now that baby is in the U.S. So then it's almost like it's like be deporting generations and generations because you take away the parent's citizenship, then you take away the child's citizenship, then you take away that the child of the child's citizenship. It's just gonna be a domino effect. So it's like, yeah, you deporting generations of people. Who got time for that? You right.
Then I'm thinking about what happens like to people who are descendants of slaves,
That's a good question.
because slaves were technically property. So I don't know if anybody was keeping track of who was from and that, because they were property. You know what I'm saying? And it's like they were black people. So even after the first couple of 100 years of slavery,
Mhm.
like, who was keeping records? Did they start keeping records? Like, what,
I don't think
we used to do family trees, right? So that's what our culture do. Like in the Bible, we have like a family tree and we try to fill it out to the best of our ability.
yeah. I don't think they kept records of where they actually took people from. I just feel like they was just going down to Africa and just snatching up black people and bringing them over here. They didn't care about where they were taking them from. And then